Okay, so there are 4 seasons of The Night Shift. First thing that struck me was they used their bargain basement Michael J. Fox, but it was a B-list cast. Some of the faces you may or may not know from other shows, but none of them really had the chops to carry a show. I literally have no idea how it lasted 4 seasons, which were short. I mean, 10, 13, 14, 10, something like that. But it was very up and down, mixed. There were times that it was almost watchable, and there were times that it was just like stuff to get through, that like you were coming in the middle of something and leaving in the middle of something, and you never quite got the beginning and the end, and you were expected to know the parts you didn't see. At least that's the way it felt like to me. Then again, I could just be forgetting everything I watched. When they started getting heavy into the politics in season 3, they blinked in, and then they waited, and then they came in again and again with all this stuff that has, like, they totally obliterate all the facts of the events they're talking about to cover one minor point. And that's probably what killed them, because it's like with all the other shows, they started getting political for the election, and they're alienating audience, especially because their audience were patriot soldiers. I mean, this was a story about Army doctors transitioning into American hospital from field combat units. Some still in, 1 foot in, 1 foot out. The premise was good. It was a little hard and heavy, and then they started contradicting their patriotism. So, they did, in some instances, they covered some things with a little bit more balance than others, but I mean, they didn't technically dishonor the military, but they sort of dishonored the country while honoring the military. It's a very fine line they were walking, and quite frankly, I think they fell, and it's probably why they were canceled. I mean, they were definitely the subtext of the hospital closing or being sold in season 3, which is basically when most shows are up for contract extensions. There were some shows that literally ran that gag for seasons, multiple seasons, that they were constantly on the edge of getting canceled, and they put it into the script. So, maybe they should have learned from their fears. Anyways, there's only those 47 hour-long episodes. If you're into medical dramas, bad acting, and questionable, I mean, they didn't really look comfortable with 90% of what they were doing, especially in season 1. And Ian's, I can't remember the word for it. It's the way you talk, the tempo, and there's a specific word that covers, beyond it, but there's a style of speech and stuff. And it turns out later on he was, commenting about how he immigrated from Ireland at 10, at least the character, which is probably putting some things into perspective. And you can't really hear the Irish, but you could hear him, the way he was delivering his dialogue sounded like he was struggling with the language. I mean, the enunciation was good, but it was the delivery that was rough, and it was throwing off all the scenes he was in, for me anyways. I would have almost rather he had an Irish accent, which would have mitigated some of the stuff. Anyways, that's it. It's pro-army, anti-American, and lots of medical stuff that they don't look like they believe.